Hey, Captain Logos here, preacher at large, teaching the word, inspiring, 3 minutes at a time. Hey, a lot of people are going to challenge you. Is the Bible reliable? Well, let me just give you a few tidbits. This is just the start of a long list of things that you can do research yourself. But when we look at the text and the manuscripts of the Bible, do you realize there are over 5,800 manuscripts that have been found? And if you stack them all on top of each other, that'd be over 1 mile worth. And some of those manuscripts are dated within 50 years of the original writing, which means the Bible has the most manuscripts with the closest date to the original writing. The next closest thing in the classical writings is Homer's Iliad. Yeah, it only has 1,800 manuscripts, and the latest manuscript is 800 years from the original date. Yeah. You know what? That's not even comparison. And yet nobody ever says, I don't believe the Iliad. How can it get here and it be the original, right? So here's the other thing. Most discrepancies, or alleged discrepancies, I should say, in the Bible are actually spelling and clarification. Do you realize that less than 1% of discrepancies of all known supposed discrepancies, only 1% have anything to do with meaning? Yeah, 1% or less have anything to do with essential doctrine, right? None of those. So there's only 1% that has to do with meaning, and none of those have to do with essential doctrine. None. In a quick prophecy study that I did of 363 prophecies from the Bible, 190 have come to pass. That leaves about 173 prophecies. And guess how many pertain to the end times? Yep. So, 100%. 173 of those pertain to the end times. That's 100%, right? Prophecy rate over several thousand years. So 190 have come to pass. 173 have not been fulfilled. They pertain to the end time, so they can't be fulfilled yet. So 190 out of 190. That's astronomical, right? If you were to get 190 out of 190, you would be the smartest person on the planet. You just can't get that unless it's truth. Here's one just quick, Isaiah 53, right? The suffering Messiah in the Old Testament talks about Jesus coming, written 700 years before Christ. Now, how can we verify that, right? Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls, when they were found, right, in 1947, they found a whole scroll of Isaiah, and that scroll dated back to 150 BC, right? That predates Jesus by 150 years. And we have the exact wording in Isaiah in those scrolls as we have today. Then they said, the skeptics, well, was Jesus really nailed to the cross? Because there's really no evidence for that. Because back then, a lot of times, they were crucified by ropes. Well, in 1968, an asteroid was discovered with the remains of a crucified man named Johanna. Yeah, it dated back to the late 20s, roughly the time of Jesus. And oh, by the way, when they opened the box, there was an 11.5-inch spike lodged in the heel to confirm crucifixion by spikes was used in the time of Jesus' days by the Romans. And incidentally, the shin bones of that ankle were shattered, just like the breaking account in Luke of breaking the legs to make them die quicker. Pottery was found in the inscription in another place about Goliath, dating back to the time of the biblical account. Now remember, all of these things, the skeptics said, well, there's no evidence for these, so it must be false. But you can never argue from the negative. Well, just because we haven't found it yet doesn't mean it's not true, right? And so, well, what about the crucifixion of Jesus? What are some other facts? So we found archaeology dug up Caiaphas, his ossuary, which is a bone box where they keep the bones after they've rotted the skin off of it, was discovered in 1990 in Jerusalem. He was the high priest who sentenced Jesus to die. And that's the only Caiaphas known to history. And we have his bones. We also know from archaeology evidence of Pontius Pilate in 1961. There was a stone in Caesarea. It was discovered with the writing Pontius Pilate, the prefect of Judea, right? These are outside biblical context, confirming the biblical text, right? Also, the first century Jewish historian Josephus mentions Pontius Pilate, Jesus, John, the Baptist, James, and a few others. In 1976, in the biblical city of Dan, there was some notepads of the ancient Near East were found. Never before had King David been spoken about outside the Bible. So the skeptic said, must not be true. We have no evidence of a King David. Well, 1976, once again, we find an inscription to the house of David. Oops, they were wrong again. I have Assyrian documents that give a similar account as the Bible in 2 Kings about Sennacherib's siege on Jerusalem during Hezekiah's reign. The Dead Sea Scrolls confirmed this in 1947. Right? Now, that the Bible is real and it's accurate, right? So 2,000 years worth of writings, and we have from the earliest time almost 50 years to the dating of writing some of them, and it's word for word of what we have today. So yes, the word got to us in the original form as it was supposed to. Now, that's a real good reason to get your face in the Bible. So may I suggest, hey, get your face in the Bible.